All right, let's jump into it. So the first question you might have is, where the heck have you been, Austin? Good question. Let me answer that for you. So about a year ago, with all the situations that was happening politically, Trump kind of looking like he was getting into office, and I kind of lost my mission in what I was doing this for, right? We go all the way back to the very first episode. The goal of this podcast was to give my thoughts in a way that I thought that my children, my grandchildren could hear my opinions as to certain current events and previous historical events. And if nobody ever listened to it, that would be pretty cool to me if my children listened to it and got to hear their dad, their grandpa, their whatever, talk about these events first person and not have to take it from some textbook that was written for them without any additional narratives around what actually happened. So that's where this started. Then that turned into me being very politically motivated in a lot of the things that I saw that I think were against the better good of our country, right? And being the patriot that I grew up being, I wanted to correct those and speak out about those things and give my opinion on those things and be a voice for people like you who maybe didn't have the time or the energy or the effort to be able to do these types of things, or maybe the I don't know, I would say hopefully not eloquence to be able to do so. So that was some of the reasoning behind what I did this for, right? If nothing else, my children could listen to it and they would think that's pretty cool, and I would think that's pretty cool. And along the way, a lot of you guys also cared about my opinion. And so I found myself in the situation where I continued to talk about current events. And I found myself getting washed out a little bit because it felt like we were winning, right? It felt like the war was kind of won. It felt like we overcame the wokeness that was ingraining itself into our society, and the pendulum had swung back. And so I didn't feel as motivated to take the time to speak out about those things as energetically as I had previously. And so from there, I also have a business or multiple businesses. I have a family. And so I decided to put my time, energy, and effort into that. But now I realize, after tying this into the full narrative here, where that went wrong, right? There is a bigger picture here for those children who will be listening to this, for those grandchildren who will be listening to this. And what I would say to them is, let your voice be heard. Your voice matters. But I think there's a reason, there's a way that I kind of went wrong with what I was doing before. And hopefully I can correct that. It fell very much into the right versus left category. Right. What I found to be really interesting watching a lot of the clips with Charlie Kirk is that he wasn't just taking his finger and wagging it at people and telling them what they were doing wrong. He was telling them how they could do better and then pointing them in a direction that would help them do so. And by a direction, I mean up, towards God, towards Jesus, towards the Bible, towards biblical teachings, and how they can improve their life. If they followed these teachings, your life will get better. They don't just tell you shouldn't do that thing, right? Maybe you shouldn't do that thing, and let me show you how this can help you to improve your life, not only in this facet, but in others. And so I think that was something that was missing from my approach before, where I don't think I gave enough positive answers to the negativity that I found myself having to bask in every day. Right? There was just so much negativity, whether it was the trans stuff, whether it was the political landscape or the wars that were breaking out, or all of these things. Like it just was so heavy and so negative constantly, without the guiding light to push people towards that was what Charlie Kirk was able to do and the impact that he had. And what we saw is that the biggest theme about Charlie Kirk wasn't his socioeconomic beliefs, his beliefs on the tax regulation, or his judicial beliefs on certain laws and regulations. Like it was none of that, right? The reason that Charlie Kirk had such a big impact was because he pointed people up. He pointed them towards something better, even if he was critiquing something that they were doing. And usually this morality that he found himself holding was based fundamentally in those teachings that he learned from the Bible. And I myself, as you may know from the years that you've been listening to me, wasn't as entrenched in my faith as maybe I am now. And I'm glad to say that I'm there. I found it. Over the last couple of years, I have been able to read more about the Bible, read more about Jesus, read more about Christianity, and have been able to find something for myself and my family that has made me a better man and have made me a better leader for those around me. And so, That's what I got to say about it, guys. Like, it was so negative and there was no better way, right? It was just, this is bad. This sucks. You guys are terrible. This is not good for humanity. But it was never like, hey, but check this thing out over here. This is pretty cool, guys. Like, this could actually help you improve your life. And so I'm happy to say that I've found that. And the way that I plan to approach this moving forward is not that of like left versus right. It's not blue versus red. And it is truly about good versus evil. That is what this podcast will be about. If I see something that I think is morally wrong, I will call it out. Whether it's on the left, whether it's on the right, whether it's nothing to do with politics, I will call it out. That is the goal of this. And so if you don't like that, feel free to leave now. That's perfectly fine with me. That's perfectly fine. I will find my tribe. Although I have an inkling to think that the people who have been listening to me are also on the same wavelength as me. And for so long, I have also criticized Trump and the things that he's doing. And I will continue to do so if those things I believe are morally unethical, including the Epstein files, right? Including the preemptive strike on Iran, including like some of these things that we've been talking about that I've been calling out for quite some time. That is going to be the theme of what we're doing here, guys. Okay? So with all that being said, I found a better way, and I am so thankful that Charlie Kirk kind of paved the way for this type of discussion, and happy to say that I'll be picking up the mic myself, along with many, many other people, to hopefully continue his legacy.